Ever since Space Invaders blew up the arcade market in the late 70s, violence has been a core tenet of video games. And for nearly as long, games have played around with the moral ramifications of such a system. Games like Mortal Kombat and Grand Theft Auto emphasize brutality to the point of absurdity. Titles like Hotline Miami and Spec Ops: The Line make players consider the ramifications of their own cruelty, after spurring it on, of course. Perhaps most famously, Undertale chose to take a world of monsters and humanize them, giving players in turn a pacifist route out of every combat encounter. And that's all good and fine, and that's all without going into the mini JRPGs, visual novels, and other overseas games that have gone into this topic. But that's not really what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about Archie's weird mysteries. Because before Undertale asks you about the ethics of wiping out entire species just because they're monsters or aliens, Archie's Weird Mysteries asks the same question. Well, kind of. For the uninitiated, Archie's Weird Mysteries was a sort of anthology series starring the characters of the Archie comics that ran for a single season in 1999 before living a long afterlife in syndication. Think of it as a mix between Scooby-Doo, The Twilight Zone, and the blandest teen show you've ever seen. However, unlike Scooby-Doo, the mysteries of the show tend to take the back seat to some of the corniest moral fables ever animated. The supernatural elements in every episode tend to exist to tempt or punish a character's sinfulness, be that watching too much TV, whining too much, or pulling too many pranks. By the end of each episode, the sinning character repents, things are brought back to normal, and Archie writes a little newspaper column about it. Think of it kind of like an earlier version of Regular Show, just much blander. But that doesn't mean every episode of the show is made equally. While some are absolutely insipid, some do accidentally broach on some interesting topics. Episode 11, Virtually Evil, would fall into that category. The episode starts with Archie and his friends hanging at the gang's regular hangout, Pop's Malt Shop, where Reggie is bragging about a basketball game he had won over Archie earlier in the day. Archie finds his bragging obnoxious and annoying, but finds some comfort in Betty and Veronica reassuring him that Reggie's competitive nature stems from his own insecurity. Suddenly, the gang are informed that the virtual circus is in town. Led by a very cyberpunk man referred to as the Ringmaster, this circus is in fact a sophisticated virtual reality game. The game is for 4 players to be played simultaneously, and everyone in the Archie gang but Jughead, who famously is not a gamer, decides to play. So yeah, virtual reality. The rules of this game are as followed. There are these humanoid monster creatures called trogs that need to be shot. For every one that you shoot, you get a point. If you get shot, you lose a point. And there's a time limit. So the gang go in, and Archie and Reggie immediately just start shooting each other.
Hey, Archie! Slam dunk! Ah, hey! I'll give you a slam dunk. Huh?
Eventually, the two start actually playing the game, and Archie finds that he is the winner. Naturally, Reggie requests a rematch, and once again Archie wins. Eventually, Archie has won so many games in a row that Betty and Veronica are bored and leave, and Archie is becoming a bit of a dick. He wants everyone to refer to him as a king, and is basically just rubbing his victory in everybody's faces in a way that is definitely cringe. He's apparently playing dirty too, with Veronica even noting that he was shooting her when she was looking the other direction.
Well, if you were good enough, you would have blasted me first. Sheesh.
Naturally, the entire gang decides to enter the game and teach that Ginger a lesson. However, they fail, and he shoots them all quickly, and they all wipe out of existence. But there's something a little different looking about this area. The Ringmaster apologizes. He says there seems to be something wrong with the game. Suddenly, the biggest trog of all approaches Archie, and it knows his name. The Alpha Trog resists his blasts and pursues him, and then the computer running the games just blows up.
What's going on?
Some sort of malfunction. overload or something. Look out!
The ringmaster assures the gang that he has everything under control, but we see that in fact, the Trog King has escaped. The next day, Archie tells everybody about his experience with the Trog King, but nobody cares because the local video arcade has just disappeared. Like, the building just is gone. Well, it turns out this is the work of the Trog King. Archie sees the big Trog out in the open, but still, nobody really believes him. Archie finds the ringmaster, who for some reason has been standing in his garage, and the ringmaster lets him know that the King Trog was from a deleted level of the game. Apparently, it's all Archie's fault for shooting all of his friends and causing an overload to the system. The weapons that the Archie gang were using to hunt Trogs are also now real, so Archie suits up and gets his friends to suit up too. Yet again, the Trog leader identifies Archie by name. Our favorite redhead asks, "Why do you know who I am?" And he says everyone knows who the Trog Slayer is. Trog leader's world had been used as a plaything, so now he intends to do that to Riverdale, scanning in locations from the city into their virtual world.
You thought it was fun to invade our reality? To gloat about your victories? Well, now the Trogs will rule this reality and play games with your lives for our amusement.
After a G-rated gunfight, Archie has been captured. The Trog leader smashes his weapon and asks him a question. How many of my people did you slay for your amusement? Now, because this show wants the moral to be about bragging, he ends up turning the speech into one more about Archie's pride.
You were too busy bragging to think about the losers in your little game, weren't you? Weren't you?
It's hard not to find the Trog leader the more sympathetic character here. By all means, he appears to be a sentient and intelligent creature, and his kin have been hunted for sport as a game. And yet, even as Archie's Weird Mysteries starts to broach this topic, it decides it would rather keep things safe. The problem is not the system, which has created this entire population of creatures that are clearly self-aware and intelligent, and yet imprisoned within this video game. No, the problem is that one teenager is too rude when he plays the video game. The Trog leader makes Archie apologize for being so rude. At first, it seems like this apology is going to be accepted, and then Archie has a gun to his face. Right when Archie is about to get shot in the face, Betty interrupts the Trog leader, calling him ugly and killing him. Alright, so here we go. It's the end of the episode. What have we learned? Much like the video games that ask you to commit violence and then make fun of you for committing it, this episode takes a systemic problem, the problem that this game is clearly some sort of inhuman, monstrous thing, and localizes all of its impact on the behavior of a single individual. Now, I do not claim to understand what the hell is going on with the Trogs. Are they literal demons that have been imprisoned in this computer? Or are they merely the creations of this mysterious ringmaster character that happen to be self-aware? Ultimately, despite the fact that the Trogs come out and question Archie specifically, their humanity is not important here. They are the other. In the eternally white 1950s world of Archie, the other only exists as a way to make you a better person, to help you undergo growth. The moment the Trog leader overstepped his boundaries, not accepting Archie's apology and deciding to kill him anyway, that's when the show decides it's too far and kills him. The Archie gang may have literally stumbled upon artificial intelligence, and in a more empathetic show, in a show less centered on a very specific perspective, maybe we could have gotten something interesting here. And maybe this is what makes the horror of Archie's Weird Mysteries so unsatisfying. After all, Riverdale is the quintessential American suburb. Archie is ultimately the story of white kids in the suburbs, living in a world where the 1950s basically never ended. And in Archie's Weird Mysteries, these suburbanites come into contact with the other. I don't think it was the real intention of the Trog leader to simply yell at Archie. Sure, everyone blames Archie at the end, but At the end of the day, I think the Trogs were probably upset they were getting murdered either way. No, the only reason Archie's poor sportsmanship was bad was because it caused the computer overload that allowed the Trogs to escape. The torturous existence of the Trogs as cannon fodder, that is totally fine. But yeah, what do you think? Were the Trogs in the right to try to take over Riverdale? Was the only problem in this episode really just Archie being rude? I would love to know your thoughts and your experience with Archie's Weird Mysteries. It's truly a bizarre and often unpleasant show, but I will keep watching it if people make me, because, yeah.
Slam dunk!